everybody has to start somewhere, you know?
That's what it is, man. Like man, you are big. You know, you gotta have that mindset. It's like, we growing. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like my business, like that's how I connected with, you know Victor?
Of course, man, that's my boy.
So they seen me grow in this short period of time from when I first was trying to recruit them to be teachers at my school.
Yeah.
And, you know, from just an inception of a vision to now just inch by inch, just growing. You know what I'm saying? Just growing to now meeting with Dame Dash, to now writing my own book, to now having a business, which I had back then, but it was like, all right, you know, it's just something small, to now having a mindset of like we. And I don't even got a we yet, but it's we because it's going to be a we. All right, it's going to be a bit. So the same with shooting a podcast, man, it's like, nah, you know, we're going to be big.
For sure.
We're going to continue to spread the knowledge for the community. We're going to continue to share a vision, align visions, and elevate people from the community and elevate their voice, amplify their mission, so people can see that it's a village of black, brown connectedness for community actualization. You know what I'm saying? So that's dope.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm very grateful for you to be here. And very quick, I want to go ahead and get the introduction going, guys. Today I have a magnificent individual with me, and I hope that he spits as many gems as possible to elevate your game and to overall just continue to build these networks, you know, these clusters of inspiration and hope and all that beautiful stuff that you were just talking about. And I don't want to mess up your name. Is it Amen Rahh?
I go by Amen Rahh.
Amen.
Yep. Amen,
okay.
Like after you pray.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to make sure, you know what I'm saying, before I start fucking it up and shit.
No, I go by both. You know, people, you know, say, oh man, it is totally fine. So if you go
you
by
like Amen.
Yeah, I go by
Which
Amen.
To me makes a lot more sense because in a prayer, although people do say Amen and they also say Amen, right?
So I go both.
So Amen Rahh, guys, he's a principal, he's an entrepreneur, and I'm really excited to get into as many conversations as possible. And number two, this episode is also sponsored by our book, which is also coming up very, very soon in a couple of days. This food, 7 lessons for burros and back chasers, right?
Nice.
So I'm very excited. We're getting a lot of information, we're getting a lot of feedback, and I'm fucking stoked, man.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
fucking
stoked. That's gonna be dope.
But also, guys, I want you guys to take a very quick look at the book, especially for all you educators out there, because this book, the niche is designed around the educational system.
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited also to get into that conversation because it's not often when I actually get to sit down in my podcast with a principal or an educator. Primarily because like when I started my podcast, I was like, you know what, like I love everything. That's just the way my mind works. And I said, if I center it around education, I'm gonna be bored.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't always talk about education.
Facts.
All my homies are educators.
Yeah.
Oh, I got other homies too. But we already have these conversations every day at lunch. You feel me? So I was like, I can't do this in my podcast. And so in general, I want to expand my horizons. And I've been able to do that with homies that have coffee shops, printing shops, all sorts of shit, right? So now I just get these brothers on here and sisters, and they start shooting their game, and whoever listens, well, it's free game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, you got to get it.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's important for me, man. It's similar. Everything for me, because my passion is in education, it connects back to that experience. Because everybody is going through some form of school. And I always say, like, you got schooling, but then you got education. Education never stops. Like, this is education. And it's a form of, you don't need to be in a school building to get provided game. You know what I mean? You can get the gyms. So, you know, for those who's that entrepreneur, who's that coffee shop owner, who's that business owner, you know, I always go back to like, well, what made you want to get to that, and who gave you the game? And most of the times when you talk about getting the game, they get the game from business ownership, not from school. They get the game from entrepreneurship, not from school.
Right.
They get the game from, you know, bag chasing, most of the time not from school. So if that's the case, what's the problem with school? Right? So, like, that was the premise of my book. It's like, yo, like, most of the time, when I was growing up, I grew up in Compton, you know, we was taught to, like, you got to be something, you got to come out of something, you got to, like, chase the bag to change your circumstances. And in school, we wasn't taught that. We was taught to conform, we was taught to go work for somebody else. And in most cases, you working for somebody else don't change your circumstances. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I wanted to connect, similar to you, education to fashion, to culture, to get in the bag. Like, I can't teach my kids, like, to dream and stop dreaming. You know what I'm saying? I can't teach my students, like, I got a model. You know, these people are educated, we got a model. We got to model how to do that math question. We got to model how to do it. If I'm modeling them what black excellence is like, I got to go and show them. You know what I mean? I got to continue to do that. So I'm just thankful to be here, man. I'm thankful for the invite. Thankful for the opportunity to just, you know, to amplify what I'm doing and vice versa, amplify what you're doing, man. I really like, I went to go see and check out some of the videos, man. I really like that, man. So I think it's all connected in regards of what you're doing right now, man. You are the steward of information for your audience. And you giving them game. You the principal of the podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really what it is. Yeah. Like, you are the facilitator of learning. And like, I call it, like, you're the facilitator of love. And love is that learning off village energy, right? So they're like, the platform is learning, like, they giving game off of the energy and off of the people, which, like me, I'm part of your village now, right? So we got this village energy that people learning off of, and that's really also part of revolutionary. You know what I'm saying? That's a revolutionary aspect in which most schools don't take pride in. You know what I'm saying? So
yes. There's two things right there. One, which I do want to address in a little bit, is like the problems of our educational system. Number two was the fact that all of this does stem out of love. And I try to make this point very clear to people. And I say to them, do you know what it means to be an amateur? So when you break it down, the beginning part of the word is aman, which is to love. And so wherever on this track decided that amateur was a bad thing, fucked up the definition of what it means to do something out of love. And so every individual that I've had here, like you said, you tap into a certain force field, and this force field, if you really want to take it down to its essence, it's just love. And so this piece of love, when someone has listened to it, they're able to relate to that, because even though it's not thousands of people that are tuning in, dozens of people are tuning in.
Facts.
And these people are really accessing what you and I are talking about, and they're allowing that to elevate themselves, and whether it's going to be a teacher or whatever they're going to do, right? So the next thing was some of the problems.
Yeah.
Some of the, I do not want to center the conversation solely around problems. I would like to center it around, let's be solution oriented.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm not going to try to extract the answer or every solution from your book, because, you know, that's a little unfair. But what I would like to do is, on a more general tip, you know what I'm saying, just kind of explore maybe what issues you dealt with.
Yeah. I think it's first, just as a black man in education, is we're 2%. You know what I'm saying? So 2% nationally in regards to being educators. So being in a room where you feel like you're suppressed plays a toll on your mind. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't even know it at the time. So when I'm 18, 19, trying to figure out what I'm trying to do in life, trying to uplift the homies that surround me, you know what I'm saying? Trying to figure out, because like I said, it was like getting out of Compton was like, you either gonna rap or pick up a ball. I know it's so stereotypical, but that's really, are you gonna get in the drug game? You feel me? Like, and I know, like, but it's really like that, because that's what's exposed to you. And then those who are like getting the bag, they ain't telling you, they ain't showing it, they gone, they got up out the community and they ain't coming back. Like, I got up out of here, good luck, type of thing. So you learning from the people that's getting the bag, getting all the girls who's out there that's probably doing illegal shit, and are you looking like a square? You know what I mean? I ain't seen nobody that was an educator that has swag. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like you be seeing, you may see an educator and then they gotta be, they just square. You like, man, I don't want to be no teacher.
Right.
Like, they look like they ain't even come from where I came from. So that was a challenge, because, you know, I went in when I decided to go into education, because I come from a family of educators. You know, my father's a professor, but he had me older, so it was a disconnect. But one of the challenges was like, dang, will I be accepted being just who I am? Do I have to change? You know, the code switch. And the code switch is harmful because then you kind of lose a piece of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my condition. Like, yeah, I talk with a little bit of, you know, I say it with a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Now I got to kind of, how you doing? Like, that was...
It's weird, right?
It's weird, right? So that was a big challenge for me. And I had to navigate that as a teacher until I just was like, nah, you know what? This is who I am. You know, and I had to overcome that. Then going to my master's program, you know, being at a predominantly white institution that's going to get your master's, you don't see that many black and brown people in the classroom, especially males in education. So you like, all right, let me figure out that experience. And then I didn't want to be an educator just to be an educator. I wanted to serve my community. So
let me ask you a quick little question. How did you manage to embrace your culture and yourself in the midst of all that madness, especially feeling like if you do have a certain accent, it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's obvious when you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are very status quo in the way that they deliver their own speeches. And so, you know, I dealt with a lot of that myself because I got my degree from an institution called Briarcliff University in Iowa. So, you know, like my whole culture has always been like Mexican American, Mexican as fuck, and Chicano. And so then I end up there and like literally like 98% of them are like hardcore white people. Not even like so-called cool white. You know what I'm saying? Like just straight up like on some like 1950s type shit.
Yeah.
And I dealt with a lot of internal shit where there was moments when I was sounding like them. And I didn't know that until I would come back home and I would speak to my peoples and they'd be like, yo, bro, you sound kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? So how did you manage to say, you know what, fuck that white supremacist shit. I know who I am and I'm gonna embrace it.
You know what? I think a lot of it is I never grew outside of the people I came up with. You know what I'm saying? Like, although I elevated, I was always mission driven, trying to get my degrees. I always had values on never forgetting where I came from. So like, and growing up, we call it like the Sankofa Principle. To know where you're going, you have to always know where you came from, right? And
say the principle again?
Sankofa Principle.
Okay.
Right? Sankofa is a word that says in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from, right? So it's similar like this your location, it's the location of your podcast. If you need to go to a destination, in order to get there, you got to know, all right, if I'm gonna make a left, I gotta know where I came from, right? So
very practical.
Very practical. So as I was going, I was like, you know what, this is who I am, and I feel like change is necessary, but you have to agree to the change. Like if I had a decision to say like, do I want that for myself? And most like no, I like who I am. Like I like being me. Like this is me. Like, why do I need to change that for you? For your to make it more palatable for you? No, you got the problem. Like, because I speak and I'm confident, and you wanna say that all these different things about the way I say, the way I sound, the way I do. No, you got the problem. So I always kept that that mindset, but I also understood that, you know, sometimes I do need to, and I hate the word code switch. Like I really just hate it because it's harmful. But I understood that sometimes I needed to shift, right? I need to navigate to get, not because I need to get to my destination, right? Like
right. So, if there's a roadblock ahead of you, I mean, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna drive through it and fuck your shit up? Or are you just gonna be smart about it and be like, you know, I could just make a quick left.
Exactly, right. And there's a movie called The Spook That Sat by the Door. And The Spook That Sat by the Door is about a black male who kind of circumvented the CIA to learn all the strategies.
That's gangster.
And went back to the community and taught the community all the strategies,
that's
right? But in order to do that, he had to conform and kind of, you know, do the code.
But did he really conform?
That's the thing. See, he didn't. So that's the perception. The problem is most people can't do that because when they conform, they lose themselves, right? And your value system is changed. So that's similar to what I did. Knowing that at a young age, it was like, all right, I already knew I would have the ability to interview well, like talk what made them feel good with all those different things. Knowing that I needed to get to this so I can show young people that it's possible. You know what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying.
That's the reality, and I want to inspire other educators. Like, no, you can come up in here and be yourself. And I'm called be yourself. Our young people need to see you and understand, like, hey, Mr. Jones, did you ever get in a fight? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I have. Like, yeah, I did some knuckleheaded things. So, and guess what? I'm gonna show you how to get the bag.
As well.
Yes. Like, don't get this like, being an educator is a part of what I do. It's not a complete of who I am. It doesn't. That's not it. You know what I mean? I think too many times as professionals, it's like we make it singular. We have it is the complicity, the duality. I would say the duality of that we are the multiple type of things that we can be.
For sure.
We can't be pinpoint to one thing. I'm more than a principal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can be more than a teacher. Like LeBron, you're more than an athlete. So I think like that's, and then young kid, you're more than a test score. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So that's kind of like where I'm at.
You know what, man? I read a quote many years ago that was basically around the idea that I contain multitudes within me. Mm-hmm. And I related strongly to that because even like for sure as a teacher now, I hate when people ask me what do I do. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't want to tell you what I do. Like that's what I do, and I do it out of love again, right? So I do not identify as a teacher. Mm-hmm. I'm just me. Mm-hmm. And even in high school, when I was the captain of the football team, I hated when people would be like, "That's a football player," because that itself people love sticking you into a box to allow themselves an easy path to get to know you.
Yep.
But I like to express and say, no. You're making it too simple. Yep. Every human being is very, very complex. Yep. And if you don't have the time to get to know people and know all these different parts of them, and even less accept them, because that's another problem, is that people don't really want to accept you for who you are.
That's it. I mean, you nailed it right there. And like when you say the complexity of who we are, right? We also now knowing that it's a world that loves putting us in boxes and putting us in a corner. We now in return get the criticism. We now in return get the shut up and dribble. We now in return get the shut up and just teach the kids. And now get all that in return, and because the system is saying like, no, you need to just go and be enslaved to this one thing that you should be. Like, you should just be a football player. You shouldn't have a voice for anything else. You should just, like, hey, why are you just play quarterback. Why are you talking about social justice issues? Hey, activists, like, why don't you just stay there? You shouldn't have a business. Or you're a business owner. Why are you, like, and I think that once we start saying that there's people that are like, no, I'm not just that. Like, I'm this, and this is who I am, is a multitude of things. And you need to, and because you don't accept it, that's your problem. Don't try to change that for me. And I think that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? As a principal, as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a business owner, as a real estate investor, as all the different things. It's like, hey, young king or queen, you can do all that too. And if somebody got a problem with it, that's their issue.
Yes. Let's get into why it's problematic to code switch, because you've alluded to that several times already. And even though I can sort of make some assumptions, I don't want to assume. I want to know why you think that it's a problem.
I think like people need to understand the really what code switching is, and like this standard of professionalism, because a lot of the naysayers or the argument is they will say, well, you should just be professional. Like, this is a professional thing. Like, you should be professional, and it goes back into like what society has created for the standard, right? Like in regards of like centering whiteness as a standard. So, for example, like someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who's a billionaire, can wear some jeans, a shirt. And it'd be like, yo, he's trend setting the casual CEO. Like, he's a trendsetter. It's relaxed. It is innovative. It is all these different things. And then you'll have someone like Derek Grace come out, and it's like, why don't they just be professional? Why don't they? And it's like, that's one part. So that professional as a standard is really centered in regards of a Western centered mindset, right? That's one part. And now when I get to the code switching, it's just like now you kind of have to develop this double consciousness that W.E.B. Du Bois talked about, is regards of like, yes, I have myself or my authentic self, but in order to like, I have to shift. I have to almost turn into a different person. Like, and this is totally different than a multitude of things that I decide to do, but I have to turn into and morph into a different person. And while you're doing that, you kind of lose who you are. And if you're doing that for a long duration of time, it's harmful to yourself. It's like we talk about this notion of self-harm, right? And we always think self-harm is around like suicidal ideations and like physical self-harm, right? But self-harm is also in regards of like the trauma for your brain, right? And also like the consciousness in regards that you want to feed yourself. And if there's code switching, when you're forced to, it is harmful for yourself to know who you truly are and keep that grounded. That's why when you are around and you like, wait, well, this is what I have to do, or this is the standard, and then you go into, it's like, why can't you just be you? Why does it have to be a standard for like this? Does it mean that there's times where you need to be formal dress or whatever? Yeah, absolutely. But in regards of how you speak, how you talk, how you hair, how you do things. And remember, like for art, a lot of times in Black culture, you can't even wear locks, right? You can't. So those things are suppressing who you are. And I can go on and on about like how especially like Black women have to press their hair to get that job, right? Like and literally a lot of times damage their hair to get that job. They can't wear their hair natural. Their natural state is not professional.
It's ridiculous,
right?
Man.
So you have to code switch to get that CEO job, or to be that lawyer, or to be looked at as confident, or to be looked at as culturally accepted, like and a lot of times cultural acceptance is cultural assimilation in regard to the mainstream society, and I think that that's unfair. I think it's harmful, and that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing.
So let me ask you a question. Since the system is clearly so entrenched in that methodology, is it important for us to basically create our own schools, our own businesses, our own blocks of spheres, where now we don't have to impose these sorts of double-faced ideologies onto each other to say, well, in order to climb the ladder, you gotta act like a white man. So, is it important?
I think where we at is like, and it's like in my book, you have this evolutionary process, and then you have a revolutionary process. And I first talk about evolution. Evolution is a gradual. It takes a long time. Evolution takes a while. Okay. We've evolved as humans. We evolved
for billions
of years, right? Evolution in the household is like things evolve, right? Revolution is an immediate impact, right? And when you're talking about like the school system, I believe that all aspects needs to be involved with it. And what I mean by that is there needs to be people within the system that are revolutionary in the sense of, first, let me say this. You can't fully be revolutionary working in a system that's trying to oppress you, right? So although like I call myself a revolutionary principle, that's to a certain degree because I also work within a system that has some flaws in it, right? So that's one part. So I do believe that people in this system need to be there, need to be working, and need to be circumventing the how to get information to people that are going to be there. Because as long as children are there needs to be people that gives them sacred knowledge. One part. Two is, yes, I do think that there needs to be ownership around schools that can provide information from every access point. Because I like one of my things is I don't want young people to be. I don't want them to, and when I say be, like I didn't want to be enslaved to something, right? And
can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can elaborate that real quick. So like, I didn't want to be a principal, like be enslaved to the principalship. I wanted to do the principalship. And when I say do, D-O, I want to dismantle what it means to be a principal, because in many schools across the nation, the principalship are like wardens to prison.
I see that.
Right? So I need to dismantle that, and I need to own right? And what I mean by own a position is I'm now the ownership of access and liberation for young people, right? So I don't want to be enslaved to like, all right, let me stay, just do the same thing, and it's like a factory, it's like a school to prison pipeline I want to do. So I encourage people, whatever you do, I don't want you to be the doctor, I don't want you to be the lawyer, I don't want you to be enslaved to that and what it continue and perpetuates in regards of the systems of oppression. I want you to do something. I want you to dismantle and own it and revolutionize the position off of how you can liberate, empower by dismantling and owning. And I believe that every level of access, we need to have that. Meaning that information, education, we need schools. Absolutely. We need to own schools. Not only preschools, not only elementary schools, not only middle schools, not only high schools, universities. Because we got to see, like, data shows that the academic gap, standardized that the academic gap is tied to the wealth gap, right? And if the academic gap is tied to the wealth gap, what is they said the number one way for us to close the wealth gap, especially for black and brown communities, is pushing to college. That's why it's this whole push to college thing. College is making billions of dollars off of us, right? Mm-hmm. So they push us to college, so they make billions of dollars. We now got to work for people to go and pay that back. And now we're being enslaved, and it really still is not closing the wealth gap, right? So we need to own our universities. We need to own our businesses. The reason why we need to own our universities is because that's the number one thing that's impeding access, right? Because it's a system that says if you don't have a 4-year degree, you don't have access to this. Like, it's literally a system that's built on, first off, college is not built where everybody can go. Like, they start building prisons 4th grade, like that's why the standardized test is there. They start to say, like, oh, you can't read, let's start building prison cells, right? So now, instead of building more colleges, if everybody went to college, it will collapse the system because it's not built for that to happen. So we need our own universities, and we need our own universities to revolutionize universities, which means revolutionizing access, right, and education, to say that, no, this is the standard, right? Because most of the time, the standard for higher education is, you hear, oh man, we're Ivy League. Oh yeah, oh UCLA. Oh, all these institutions that are still centered around a standard that says, like, all right, now I'm equipped for this. Where we know straight off, like, yo, this street intellectual, like, I can do what you do better than what you do. But because you felt like you got that degree, that you still can't solve the problems that I already know how to solve. You know what I mean? So I think, like, it's important for us to value the creative intelligence and the practical intelligence that is inherently in people of color because of our experience. Like, our people, our ancestors, your ancestors, my ancestors, we had to use our creative intelligence to make something out of nothing, right? Why don't we tap into that more, right? And for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you know, we are trying to solve practical problems of our society, but we're still measuring it with analytical solutions, standardized tests, test scores, access to, like, I don't know about you, but for me it was like, to get to that college, you gotta make sure you get a certain GPA. It was like a damn mathematical equation. If you got this GPA, you gotta score this level on the SAT or and then that means you're not eligible for these colleges because you didn't get that high score. So that here you got this college, you like, what? Man, I'm just trying to.
Or the way that, like, even like this, the whole like system to get into universities, it's like it divided into classes itself, and we really impose this shit onto the kids. And I see that with the counselors when they start telling you about, this is what you need to do to go to a community college. Oh, this is what you need to do to go to a Cal State. Oh, this is what you need to go to UCLA. This is what you need to do to get into Stanford. And so that within the same kids, it starts creating like this weird hierarchy of them thinking that they're superior to other kids, when in reality, it doesn't really mean that just because you go to a community college that you're less gifted or less powerful than the child who gets into Harvard. Which, by the way, if a black or brown child from the hood gets into Harvard anyways, that's something immaculate in and of itself. But the way that we value these sorts of colleges, and I made this point before, and I said, because somebody told me and they said we need more within the context of this conversation, within my community, they were saying, like, we need more PhDs that are Chicanos. And I said, what's the point of getting another PhD from the same system that has been perpetuating the same
That's
shit.
oppressing you.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. I mean, and again, that's why I say you can't, like, I don't take no knock on, like my cousin, like, straight from Compton, is at Harvard, graduated from Harvard,
Right.
about to go to Oxford University. Shout outs to him. He's booming, right? And I think that's important. I think representate, because like a lot of it is like a representation, like representation matters, but more importantly, consciousness matters, right? Because like, somebody who represent the Chicano movement, somebody who represent the black movement, and got that PhD, got all the degrees, got all the validation of a white-centered society to say like, hey, yo, they have made it. Let's listen to them. But if they continue the cycle of oppression, what good is it? Now we just have a representative of our own that is oppressing us and suppressing us. Right, and that's why I say, like, I always level up when somebody says like representation matters. Yeah, that's cool. Representation is valuable, but consciousness is priceless. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about, yeah, we need more PhDs and all that stuff, who's teaching them? You know what I mean? Do we, like, yes, yeah, we want that person to go to Harvard to show that they went to the white institution and did great things. But then what? Right? Like, yes, they went to do all that, but then what? The problem is, for me, is like, yo, that's cool. I ain't knocking nobody doing that. I'm like, yo, where is the Chicano Harvard? You know what I'm saying? Why are we not trying to build the Harvard for our people? Why are we not trying to build the Harvard for, like, it should be that. Like, you know what I mean? And my thing is, it's like, yo, really, what I want people to find themselves, be happy, and spread love.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So in order to do that, I feel like we gotta have ownership at every access point. You know what I'm saying? And in order to do that, we can't always search for validation from somebody else, because you give them permission to feed you, you also give them permission to starve you.
Absolutely.
So what happens when Harvard say, "Nah, we cool, we don't need y'all no more"? So where your validation coming from if you're not feeding your own people? You know what I'm saying? Like, or you're not feeding yourself. So that's kind of like where I come from. Somebody was coming at me up in my comments on social media about that mindset, but I stick to it. It's just like, we need to own, and that's just that.
Absolutely. So look, we jumped like straight into the pool real fast.
Yeah.
I wanna backstep a little bit, because there's a component here that is missing, right? And because I'm talking to somebody who's grown, and is a grown ass man that has developed so many skills and tools, and their consciousness is pretty much where it needs to be. But like, what started that consciousness? Because you make a very important point, that you could be rich, you could be a black rich person and not give one fuck about your community.
Facts.
And I don't need to mention names, but I'm sure you can think of many people.
Yeah, for sure.
But so what triggered that consciousness, and can that be multiplied onto society?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so I come from a father who was community driven. Like, my father was my superhero, right? So he helped build a Black Studies department at Cal State Long Beach.
Shit.
Right? So in the I think it was 1968, whatever, right? They were trying to get rid of the whole department. And they always trying to get rid of departments, Chicano stuff, all those different things. So he helped build the Black Studies department, and it was always about liberating black people, Chicano people, all through Cal State. He's like, yo, this is a form of reparations. We're going to try to get everybody that come through the program college degrees. That's just what it was. So at a young age, indirectly, I'm hearing stuff. You know what I mean? Even though I'm trying to be a rapper, football player, do X, Y, and Z. like I thought my father was like, he was known, but I always thought like, that ain't what I want to do. Like, he ain't getting no money, he ain't getting no girl, and like, it was just different. You know what I'm saying? So, but I was always listening and hearing. So I had the ability to start saying like, man, I start to see the world in a different way at a young age. You know what I'm saying? So I think inherently I had that value system of collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, unity, faith, creativity, all these different things was like part of me. But then I had to find myself. It took me a while, because I thought I was going to be a gangster rap, all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, doing stupid stuff. Like God blessed me to, like I was the kid. Like we was growing up in Compton, but I got two parents in my household, right? Like I had privilege. I had relative privilege. Like growing up in Compton, like both of my parents, both of them college degrees. I had the youngest, but still the streets was like, yo, this is cool. This was cool. So
it's a very sexy lifestyle.
It's a very sexy lifestyle. So my homies who had the single mom that was hustling, I'm helping them hustle. I'm saying I'm doing stupid. You know what I mean? Like I had to. So it took learned lessons to be like, damn. Let me start being the person that like, hey yo, this a different way. Let's see what's out here. Let's go get it. So like that always had it with me. So it's like, what good? I can go get the bag. I can go and leave and just say like, cool. Like I make good money as a principal. I make good money in my side businesses. I can say like, hey, my wife always like, what? Why you? It's because when you make a decision to be a servant of your community and be a revolutionary, it's a life sentence. Like being a revolutionary ain't just like, hey, 2 years, I'm gonna try to, serve my people and, liberate and be all, and then like, I'm tired of that. Like this is who I am, right? So I made that decision at a young age to say like, no, I want to serve my community and I want to change the fact that, like, damn man, why do kids gotta grow up saying like you gotta leave Compton, your city, to like that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like the problem is that we have underserved communities, we have marginalized communities, we have dehumanized communities, and I want to change that fact. So we need to circumvent money back into the communities. We need to uplift. We need to provide voice to the voiceless, help to the helpless, and hope to the hopeless. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's how I kept grounded in who I am and where I want to be.
Well, you did answer because the question really was like, what triggered your consciousness, right? And you basically said like your pops, and being around an environment where Black power really is a lifestyle.
Yep. You
know what I'm saying? And furthermore, I think it's really important to mention that lifestyle is really not a joke. So especially the way that you framed it as like a sentence, like although that is to me maybe something that I won't necessarily 100% agree with, because like a sentence, when I think about a sentence, it's like your ass is going to jail.
Yep.
You know, and of course, like when you go to jail, like there's many reasons why you could go to jail. Maybe you got precedents to do some shit, but more than likely you made an action.
Yep.
You made some type of action that got your ass
sentence.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But number two,
well, why you say that? My boy, shout out to Watch Sticks. So he got a bar that says they don't teach us how to complete sentences. They rather hand us sentences. You know what I'm saying? So it's just what it is, and that's definitely wrong frame. But it's really about like this is something you do. Like people that dream, right? You should have a dream so big that you can't achieve it in your lifetime. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of like where I'm at. Some people are cut from a cloth where it's like, and I wish sometimes like I could stop dreaming. You know what I mean? Like I could just turn it off. But it's like when you dream for young people, you dream for yourself, you dream for others, you dream. It's therapeutic for me to be like, man, it's possible. You know what I mean? And some people hide behind the discouragement of like dreaming small because they feel that their dreams could never happen, and it's like, yo, no, it's possible. You know what I mean? Like, who would have thought that? For similar, like, right? There's Chicano studies programs that manifested. You know what I mean? That somebody probably 100 years ago never thought that would have happened. Somebody had to dream it.
Right.
You know
and even thinking about the liberational, our liberational ancestors that at certain times were either indentured servants or even slaves. Like even imagine the first slave that imagined and dreamed about being free. Like if that shit never was started as a thought, it would have never led to a rebellion.
Exactly.
That led to another rebellion.
Exactly.
And eventually, although there's different methods of slavery today, there has been clear differences.
Yep.
Right? And I think it's truly a beautiful thing. But like you said, I wanna go back to that idea of like consciousness, because it's not something that I think is discussed enough. I don't think it's something that's pretty much relevant in society. Although I can say that consciousness does start from raising yourself or being in an environment where you see some level of struggle. And so, like for me, for example, there was a time when my mom had to work 2 jobs, and she'd come home like at 8 p.m. and there wouldn't be enough food for like her, so just my little sister and I would have to eat. So that, even though I didn't have the ideas in my brain yet to understand what was going on, there was something manifesting in my heart that was predisposing me to be a compassionate person. So now as an adult, I've already built that framework that when I see someone that's suffering, I'm automatically, I feel something. And that feeling is, well, fuck, what can we do? What can we do to alleviate some of the miseries of society? And of course, like, I mean, there's many different like philosophical fields of thought in here, right? Where it's like either you do for self, which I'm a big fan of, but I'm also on the part where it's like, well, we can also do something as a tribe. You know what I'm saying? To create certain things, certain systems. I don't know, you know, like you know, it could also fall into the whole like socialism, capitalism thing. Like that's a really big question. I'm not really too sure exactly where to go with that.
I mean, the reality too is that, man, right now we are operating in capitalism.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, although I lean in regards of a lot of humanitarian, socialist, like I would say capital socialism, whatever the case may be, in regards to some things, but we are operating in regards of a world that values well dollars, right? So this notion of like at my school, we have a mission for every child to achieve self-actualization. That means that they know themselves in context of the world, right? And for you to self-actualize, in order for you to achieve self-actualization, you got to know yourself. You got to know your strengths. You got to know your areas of growth. And you also need to know what is needed for you to unlock your hidden treasure. Because if you know what is needed to unlock your hidden treasure, then you can add that to the village. And then now you can achieve what's called community actualization, right? Not saying that you're neglecting a village, but it's almost like this notion of like self-care and community care, right? Like, we want community care, but can you take care of your family if you're not taking care of yourself?
Absolutely not.
Right? So, like, you got to make sure that you can do a lot more for your family if you was foundationally set. And if you like the foundation, if you had a strong foundation, you're only going to be able to build a stronger house. Right? Like, if this house is built, like, you want to build a foundation so it can be a stronger house. So that foundation is like, what does that look like? And I always say, like, the evidence of consciousness is through application. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be conscious and then not apply it.
And not do shit.
Like, you can't be like, I'm conscious of this. And, you know, people like, no, I'm aware of this. And don't do shit. You complicit. You sitting back. No, you're not. And that means you are not conscious. Because once you achieve consciousness, true consciousness, you apply it. It drives action. You know what I'm saying? So I think like the levels of like, you may understand something on the surface, but you haven't achieved consciousness. You haven't achieved actualization yet. Right. And I think like in order for this village to like, and I'm big on village, we have to, like, for me, like self-care, and like there's selfless, and I think that selfless is important, but there's times where you need to be selfish. Like, you need to be selfish because you got to make sure that you are taken care of so you can pour into your village. You can't pour into your village on an empty cup. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just the reality. And sometimes, you know, I need to fill my cup up so I can pour more into my village. Yeah. You know, so that's kind of like what I take, because society will say, you know, you don't never supposed to be. They teach you though, you don't never supposed to be selfish. Selfish is, you don't never supposed to, you know, always think, you know, and I you know, I understand that the idea, but then you get operating in this world where they're gonna eat you up alive.
Exactly. You're gonna be basically like a skeleton with no strength, trying to carry something for the village, you're not even gonna make it to the village.
Yep.
Right. So I think that was a very, very good analogy to describe what type of ways you can go. And it's a fact, bro. If your cup is not full, you can't drink from it. You can't drink. You can't share. You can't do shit. There's a writer. I'm sure you read.
I saw that thought, but I want to say this though.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got to know what you're filling your cup up with. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is, whatever you filling your cup up with is what you're pouring back into the village. So what I mean by that is, if you filling yourself up, see that's the difference between selfish and selfless at times, and so when I'm filling myself up, I'm filling myself up with knowledge. I'm filling myself up with strategies. I'm filling myself up with how to get capital gains. I'm feeling like I understand the capital markets, so guess what? I'm gonna pour back into my community. How you can learn and invest in the capital markets. I'm filling myself with knowledge from other people, so I'm pouring that back. But if I'm filling my knowledge with greed, if I'm filling my cup up with greed, if I'm filling my cup up with just self-centered, I'm pouring my self-centered ideology back into my village, and then that's toxic. So I think it's important for like understanding what are you filling your cup up with, because that is what's gonna be poured into your community. So if you're pouring yourself up with just all you, then what you're gonna pour back is you, and that helps no one. Mm-hmm. But if you're filling yourself up with knowledge, if you're filling yourself up with the intent to learn how to grow, like for example, if you learn this podcast blows up, and it's gonna blow up. How are you gonna now pour that back into the community and that next podcast that want to start that learn from this? You know what I'm saying? Like that's pouring back into it. So that's my notion on it.
You know what? That doesn't even sound selfish at all. Mm-hmm. Because the outcome is to be beneficial to everybody. And so when you break it down like that, it was never really just about you. It was more like, yo, I need time for me right now. That means that I'm gonna separate myself in the village a couple years, whatever, but I will be back. Like, I promise you. Especially, I can see that almost as a movie, like kind of like a young man, teenager goes off on an exploration to find himself, and but with the intent to come back a greater man and to just share, right? Like wealth obviously is a physical thing, but it can also be a spiritual thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can also be an intellectual thing, and so, like you said, there's a lot of different components to this tribe, to this village, and everyone, and I strongly suggest that everybody goes on these journeys, you know, and explores different parts of the world, different parts of different communities, and starts gaining these different forms of capital. That way, you become so much more richer as an individual. And so when you come back, which is what I did, like I was born and raised in Huntington Park, bro. Like literally, I was born in a hospital that doesn't exist anymore because I don't know why it doesn't exist anymore. It's probably not that good. But I take so much pride in that.
Absolutely.
I take so much pride because not a lot of motherfuckers are born in this city. And so I left, man. I lived in Chicago for a little bit. I lived in Iowa for a little bit. And I dealt with so much crazy shit that a boy didn't really know how to handle. But yet, there I was, right? Back to that story of the young man in the wilderness trying to prove himself so that when he comes back, he's like, I'm a grown man. And then when I came back, I still wasn't a grown man. But the point is that I went through some trials and tribulations that added to my now beginning of my manhood. And so it's just a beautiful thing. But my intention was always like, I love my people, I love these streets, and whatever happens, I wanna pour back into it. And just, I think God has blessed me tremendously in that sense, where I have been able to feed people something. And I started off on a football field. I played college football. So not a lot of us get to play college football, especially for my community. And so when I came back, they were all excited. They were like, oh shit, like one of ours got to play college football. So that in itself was able to create that feeling.
Yep.
Where you're able to feed somebody something,
Yep.
but something positive, right? Like, of course, we all know that football can bring a lot of physical trauma to your body, but there's trade-offs to be made in this life.
Yep.
You know, that you can't gain shit without sacrificing something. And I evidently sacrificed a lot of my body.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, maybe it was meant to be anyways, right? Like, I'm not too sure. Like, I'm sometimes stuck between free will and destiny. I feel like it's like maybe a combination of both. But I was gonna tell you about Paulo Freire. I'm sure you're very, very familiar with his work. And Paulo was the first person that really motivated me to want to become a teacher. Before that, I never really saw myself as a teacher.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes when I was at East LA College, like when the professor was there, I'd fuck around and be like right in front of the board, and I'd be like, man, I could really do this shit. But when I read his work, I was probably about 20, and it just fucking lit my brain on fire.
Yeah.
Because he was working with the most oppressed children of Brazil. The kids in the favelas. The kids that nobody gives a fuck about. They have no education. They don't know how to read. And I was like, yo, man, like, okay, the United States is not Brazil. Brazil's a third world country. But we got something similar to that in our own sphere. And I was like, okay, so what is pushing, what is motivating this man? And it was his idea of consciousness, of knowing that there's something so wrong with society, and that one of the factors that can alleviate some of that is to allow people to think for themselves. This idea of critical thinking, which as I walked around and I grew up and I started developing my own ideas and thoughts, I was like, not a lot of people really do know how to think for themselves. So that was one thing that really motivated me, this idea of consciousness and this idea of like, what can I do? And as a young man, I was like, well, I guess I'll be a teacher, you know, because I want to do something. And like you said, man, a lot of people can do a lot of shit, but you know, that was what I decided to do. And it seems like you engaged in that same path.
Yeah, like for me, man, you was ahead of me, man. I hated reading. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't start reading. I don't think I read a full book cover to cover till maybe, man, I was like 23 or 24.
Okay.
Like, I had like one time in high school I had like a 1.8 GPA. I just was just like, and I played ball. Like, the only reason I was keeping the GPA high is because of ball. And then 1 year just slipped, and I was like, oh man, I was on academic probation, all that. So, and then when I became a teacher assistant first. I didn't want to be. I was like, oh, actually a job, right? So I was like, all right, teacher assistant, cool. I get the summers off. It was like, cool. I could be with honeys, all that stuff, whatever. And then I became, but I was always a motivator. Even at a young age, when I was playing football, I was a cat. Like I got it. I was the one that's getting us hype. Like everybody came to me like, hey, what we, you know, I was that person. So I was always a motivator. I was always an educator. I wouldn't say I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. You know what I mean? Like I gave you game, like wisdom. You feel me? So when I was in school, you know, growing up, I was the salesperson. I used to go to downtown LA, get chains for $12, whatever. Go back and sell them for $30, whatever the case may be. Buy low, sell high, type of thing. So I always was that person. So when I became a teacher assistant, I just spread that same game. Like, so I was just a motivator. Hey man, just not. Hey man, forget that. The test ain't. But listen, this test is your adversary. Look at it like that football player that you got to run through. Like, just knock this thing out. So I got results because I was the motivator. I was the person that. You
were a coach.
I was the coach. I knew how to take something that was complex and simplify it. You know what I mean? Like that. I knew that at a young age. That was my strength. And then, you know, I started to elevate and like, damn, this is my path. Like, I really love doing this. And then it's like, I started to wake up and I was like, yo, I love the kid, you know, the kids are loving me. And I was like, man, I think I want to now just be the teacher. Even though I'm an educator, I'm a, you know, teacher. But I never considered myself really a good teacher in regards of like
content and shit.
Pedagogical, kind of just like, hey, you know, think, pair, share, I'm teaching life. Right, I'm an educator, right? So that same attitude took me towards being now. What got me want to be a principal, I started to see other principals not really be the motivator, not really be an educator. They was being the principal. You know what I mean? Going back to being enslaved by the principalship. And take in mind, I'm doing all this while I'm in college, where I'm still not really reading. I'm like, man, I don't like school.
Right,
like,
right.
I never liked school, and still to this day I don't like the schooling. I like education. I don't like school. So it's like, yo, you want me to write 25-page papers? I'm like, man, I gotta meet. I'm meeting with the village. Like, yo, I'm gonna write this down, Che. Could you type it for me? Like, that's how I got through college. Was like, I had a village of people that loved what I did. I knew how to get with a team that could help me. You know what I'm saying? Because I never was a good writer. Never, but I knew how like life worked. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like I wanted to provide that for young people. You know what I'm saying? So then I was like, damn, I started to read more. You know what I mean? Started to read a little. I don't even say like read a whole bunch, but then I started to read Pedagogy and the Press. The one book changed my life. Going back is The Alchemist. Right? The Alchemist changed my life in regard to that story, personally. But then I just started to read more on Marcus Garvey, or more on just like other people's work, and just applying it to my wisdom that I kind of had growing up. You know what I'm saying? So it's funny because some guy just came to me. He's like, man, you always talking, man. You can't be no 4.0 student. I'm like, you facts. I never claimed to be. But you know, just going to your story, man. Like, you were inspired, and I think that is what life should like. I just posted, man. If you got a surrounding of people, Nipsey Hussle said, if you surrounded by people that don't inspire you, you don't got a circle, you got a cage. Like you should be around people that inspire you, and you should find your inspiration from a book, your surroundings, your peers. Like you should, like me, I'm always looking for inspiration and knowledge and wisdom. So if you can't get that from your teacher, I think that's a huge problem, you know. And like one of the shirts that we got is like inspire or retire. Like that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Hang up the cleats, G. You know, in regards to inspiration, bro. Another reason why I'm so lucky, bro, is because I feel inspired every day.
Yeah.
So like I can fuck around and walk through the block and see a random kid expressing their genuine joy, and I look at that and I could sense the kid's energy, and I can say that's fucking inspirational, because that kid is still free before we start sticking our stupid ideas in their brain and start making them hate themselves, and then they turn into whatever, right? They could turn into whatever. But this is why I love and I hate our institutions of schooling.
Yeah.
Because why is it that a child is born and at 3 and 4 they're always asking why?
Yeah.
Why is this? Why is that? Why is everything going on? And sometimes it annoys you, but the reality is that they're very curious.
Yeah.
And by the time I get my seniors, they're a drone.
Yeah. I mean, I highlight that in my book, man. I say like students are born, or children are born as creators and explorers, and it's not until they get to school where they're told to sit down, shut up, and color in between the lines. Right? And it's this. Then the book is made to have you think off of like, well, how do we expand on this creator, on this explorer? Like, how do we now change and we amplify that? You know what I'm saying?
It's good. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. Like, how do we amplify that? You know, because that's where like now you're told to, you know, color between the lines, stand on the line, be this. Now you're suppressed. That goes back to that suppression, right? And you're right, man. And that's why I say, like, in my honest opinion, to truly be revolutionary, we need to blow up just the structures of what schools are. Like classrooms shouldn't look like classrooms anymore. Like, it should be totally radical, and so it could really be that shock value, right? Where traditional grading, it shouldn't be A, B, C, D, or F. I highlight that in the book too as well. It's like, I believe A, B, C, D, F, and you nailed it too. It kind of reinforced this classism, right? Like this hierarchy of like who's better than who. And until grades are not connected to quality of life post high school, I feel like it needs to be shifted, because the data that's used it's used to project or be a predictor of where you will land in society. And I think that's deeply problematic. I think it's harmful, and I think it's insidious.
Absolutely. And I feel very similar, bro, because when I was in high school, I was pretty much a C student.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was a C student, and I didn't like the way that I was treated because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like undervalued, and I knew that I was. I mean, I didn't necessarily know that I was special, but I feel like, especially like in my generation, I think a lot of us were raised to believe that we're special. Like there's the shit that we're just being fed.
But like, listen, you are special. Like you are, like, and that's the problem with the schooling. Like you are, everybody is special. Everybody has a brilliance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think like this notion of even like me, like C student, it's like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, what does that even mean? And I think that's where schooling gets it wrong. Is that we say like, I'm not special because the A students are special. Right? You know what I mean? Like, the gifted, like special. What do you mean? Like, what it really means is that you haven't unlocked, and I've had the opportunity to unlock my gifts upon the world, because everybody's born with a gift. Like you know what I mean? Like, because if that's the case, right? If that's the case, that means all the researchers got it wrong, because all the researchers that's from these institutions with all the degrees says everybody is born with a gift. They said in their books, all the great, they're born with this brilliance. Then if that's the case, then everybody's special. The problem is we categorize on what we value as being special. So we value the person that's able to achieve within the system as special. But we don't value what your creativeness as a creative entrepreneur, as a Chicano in America. We don't value that as special. How dare you be creative? That's outside of the box in which we said for you to be creative. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, you can go be creative in performing arts. We don't call that special. That's just kind of like what we thought you could do. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you can go be creative in sports. That's what we made that lane for you. No, we need to, like, let's look at this in its totality and holistically, and like your unique gift was not unlocked in the traditional school system. You know what I mean? And I think that's the mindset I take, is that, I am not, if I don't get you to high school and you haven't unlocked to the point of like, this is my special gift. You know what I mean? And even if you don't have it fully, but like, I know what I'm good at. Or you have an innate, like, you have a connection, like, this is what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
Versus like I got a kid right now, he know like, listen, I'm a business owner. He got it at a young age. He knows that he want to own a business. So it's like, I'm about to tap into that. Like, you're special. Not that 4.0 student, like they special too. You special. Let's tap into that right now. Why you ain't got your business started right now? He only in 10th grade. Why you ain't got it right now? Instagram, you can start a business right now. Start making merch right now. Let's get it. Start your podcast right now. You got a phone right now. This your business. Let's get it popping. Right? And I think we don't do that enough with our young people, because instead, those who are being a teacher and being a principal will try to get that kid. Let's try to conform you. You know what I'm saying? And then it starts to unravel in the ways that they didn't like, and now he's the problem child or she's the problem child. So, nah, man, everybody's special, bro.
Yeah, and I love that you're playing a very instrumental role in this process, because we do need more principals like you with a theme like this that can truly shake up these ideologies that are so pervasive in these systems. And my past principal, her name, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Miss Fowler. Well, she's married now. I think she's Newsom, but she's like a black woman from Chicago, and so she came in there being herself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I love genuine interaction.
Yeah.
And people in positions of power are fake as fuck.
Yep.
That's why it's very difficult for me to ever imagine myself even getting into admin or principalship or anything like that, because it's such a weird space.
Yep.
In the sense where they will not allow me to be me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which is why I'm so impressed that you are you and you are there.
Yeah.
And the other person, which by the way he sends his kind and warm regards to you, is Dr. Marin.
Yeah.
And Dr. Marin was the brother that actually helped me become an educator, because here I am, 21 years old, crazy as fuck. I have all these crazy ideas, but nobody wants to fuck with me because I have no experience. I don't have the crazy badass credentials of the Harvard graduate and all that shit. So I'm sending everybody's like declining me, and I'm like, dang, you don't even know who you're fucking missing with or missing out on. And so, I ended up being introduced to Dr. Marin, and one night, random as fuck, like at 10 p.m., he gives me a call, and a 30-minute conversation, again, centered me just being myself, talking about like the consciousness that can alleviate the ill wills of our communities. And he's like, brother, that's the most impressive interview I've had in a while. So that was a beautiful moment for me, because it was at Jordan, but the green dot side. And it was just like, God, bro, because I said I wanted to teach in the hood because that's what I want to do. And so even though everybody was rejecting me all over the place, I ended up teaching where I had to teach. And that shit was hard, bro. That shit was hard, because I met a lot of children that were dealing with a lot of things that had more important shit to do than to do my do now and my exit slip. So what I learned was, and that's who I am today as a teacher, I don't care about the standards. I do not care about the standards. And it hurts me so much when my colleagues and everyone, they're so
focused on the standards.
Yes.
They don't even know what to do without the standards.
It drives me insane. Because my thinking is exactly what you said earlier. I'm a coach. I'm teaching this fool how to be inspired. I'm not teaching them how to... although it's important, writing and reading and all that shit is really, really important. But that's not my role. But they don't understand that. They don't care about that. Which is really ultimately was going to eventually push me out of, like I said, I'll probably always be an educator with these methods. But I'm eventually going to get pushed out.
Like, because again, you got the traditional methodology of being in a school, right? Like, because, and then we have conversations around like development of standards and how that is centered and all that stuff. But the position of teacher is, you're working in the classroom in regards to a structure, right? A certain structure. And I think what you are saying is like, this notion of education operates so profoundly outside of the structure. And in order to really get to what is needed to unlock the hidden treasures of young people, it takes a lot, right? But also, it's cool. It's also at the same time, I think you can do so much more by being a young Chicano, to showing other young people like, yo, this is dope. I'm learning so much. Listen, man, I'm learning so much more from a TikTok video, from a podcast, from a YouTube, than sitting at a lecture with some doctor from such whatever degrees that they got it from, regurgitating some whatever. I call them academic artists. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them, they speaking in regards of this higher level, trying to use all. Listen, I'm never. If you follow my platform, man, I tell people all the time, you getting straight facts. Like, I ain't the researcher like type of. I'm giving it to you just. This is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like this. I'm a straight intellectual type of person. You know what I mean? Yeah, I got the degrees and all that, but I don't get geeked up to be like, oh, let's go do some research for 25 years. Like, that's not me. You know what I'm saying? So even in this book, I tell people like, this ain't no researcher type of. You about to get all that. You about to get straight. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is my journey, and this is what I think education need to go towards. You feel me? And what you're doing, man, is inspiring. And I think that you need to know, like, don't never stop being that you're an educator. That is not confined to being a teacher inside of a school. You know what I mean? That's my notion of being a revolutionary educator, is that, even if you are a freaking CEO of a media company, you don't never stop providing education for the people. You know what I'm saying? You never stop giving value to people. That's the educator in you. Like, what you learn, the setup, the audio, like that's valuable information. You know how many people don't even know what mic to get?
Right.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Just to like what, you know, what made you just start? Like how many people come to me and be like, yo man, I always want to write a book. Like principles. How that mean? Like, you know, how do you know that's the educator in this, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, don't never let nobody say that you're not special. Don't never let nobody say that you are just that, you know what I mean? Because you're more than that. And then also, man, don't let nobody tell you that, you know, when you also trying to get more resources so you can add more value, that they try to put you in you know, you just trying to be a money grabbing, and then it's like, yo, I need more resources. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Like to spread more, that goes back. You gotta fill up your cup so that we are able to provide more. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah. So you continue to do what you're doing, man. It's exciting.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. A couple people that have really inspired me to continue on that pathway, which you're probably familiar with, is like 19 Keys,
19 Keys,
Brother Ben X, Tarek,
yep.
And so like, you know, I want to say maybe a couple more things. It's like black people, even though they're amongst the smallest minorities in our country, have always been at the forefront of changing shit.
Yep.
You know, revolutionizing shit, whether it's music, whether it's education, whether it's business, all this shit.
Yeah.
And I look at them today, and it's like they're still doing this.
Yeah.
You guys are still doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like to give credit because it's number one, admirable, and number two, it's about respect, and number three, it's like I borrowed something and you have provided it to me, so I can share that to whoever's watching.
Yep.
Now you're gonna watch you guys, that way you can not only just learn from me, but learn from the sources that I've learned myself.
Yep.
And man, honestly, I'm very grateful for this conversation and to have added you to my network of expression and business and everything. And it's a very special thing for you to be out here and to be able to put out your book and to be able to share with my audience. If there's like one last thing that you would like to share, you know, what's that thing that you'd like to share?
The biggest thing, man, is change the world. You know, and don't let the world change you. You know, so much of us is putting a system of like, oh, this is how things are supposed to be. Like, oh, it's supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be top, middle, low class. It's supposed to be these type of things. And I encourage you to say, like, you know what, maybe the world got it wrong. And this code switching, they got it wrong. This centeredness, it's wrong. And you know, when you are on a journey of right and wrongs, you have to have these values, you have to have these principles, you have to have this consciousness that you are able to apply and change the world while not letting the world change you to be okay with it. You know, and being complicit, sitting back right now and not jumping is a form of discouragement. And I just encourage anyone who that next podcaster, that next business owner, that next author, that next revolutionary educator, that next person that's going to be doing something, dismantling and owning something, change the world. Don't let the world change you.
Absolutely. Where can people tap into your work?
So absolutely, social media, Principle Rahh, on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and then you can go to my website, revolutionaryeducator.com. That's where the book is. You can pre-order the book. We got some signature packages, and the book is released March 5th. You know, so we're taking pre-orders right now. And man, my school is right out here in Watts, California. So you know, you can always tap in once this is all done with, and just see how we get down, man. You know, it's just a lot of love. Like as a principal, I know every kid. You know, everybody feels like somebody. So that's just what it is.
Thank you so much. Guys, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, share this with the world. I love you guys as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.
All right.
Boom.